Jennifer, and welcome to the students who've joined us today, and of course anyone who watches the recording as well. So what I'm going to do today, I don't want to spend too much time on the presentation. I just want to give you a very good overview of the way things are in terms of study abroad at UCD. And then I want to give you an opportunity at the end for you to ask any questions. And of course, you can put some questions in the chat as well, and we can look at those at the end. And if you want to turn your, unmute yourself and ask questions, then feel free to do so. So I don't want to bore you with too much detail here. As I said, I want to give you a very good overview, and we're going to focus more specifically on the science program. But if you have questions from any of the other academic disciplines, which I'll mention in this presentation, then you can also ask me about those as well. So you're very welcome, and we'll get moving here now. So, Destination Ireland. So you're obviously contemplating or thinking or planning sort of a study abroad experience. I mean, Ireland's obviously very well connected in terms of North America and the US, and also too, it's a real gateway for Europe. So, in the past, in non-COVID times, we've had students that have come over and they've really used their experiences in Ireland as a sort of launch pad to see other countries in Europe as well. And things are really opening up now. Obviously, it's been a tough time through the pandemic in the US and, in other countries in the world, including Ireland. But we've resumed face-to-face teaching at UCD this semester, so fully face-to-face teaching, and things are opening up and restrictions are sort of reducing, by the day. So, there's some good news stories in terms of the pandemic. Obviously, I don't think the world is there yet, but as I said, things are sort of up and running. I was on campus earlier today and the place is buzzing back to sort of the usual buzz. And plenty of students around. Just in relation to Ireland, I mean, we are in the top 10 destinations for US study abroad students. So we've had quite a bit of experience at UCD over the years in welcoming students from around the world as study abroad students, either for a semester or a full year. And we're a very diverse university in terms of population. So we're called the Ireland's Global University, and in non-COVID times, we would welcome around 8,400 students, international students every year. Another reason to come to Ireland is beautiful landscapes. There's plenty of green, and part of the reason for that is because of the rain. But if there's any sort of Star Wars fans on, you may recognize Skellig Michael there from one of the Star Wars movies. The thing with Dublin is it's located on the East Coast, but it's also very accessible, not just to Europe in terms of flights to Europe, but to the rest of the country as well. So it's only 2 hours to, other major cities in Ireland, including Belfast in Northern Ireland, and then Galway, Cork and Limerick in the Republic of Ireland. And Dublin itself is very compact. It's easy to navigate. The UCD campus is an urban campus, so it's about 6 kilometers from the city centre, but there's great transport links from UCD into the city centre, and there's a bus terminus on campus, and there's also a train line called the Dart that you can walk to fairly easily from the campus as well, that goes right around Dublin Bay. So UCD itself, as I said, very international campus. We are the #1 choice in terms of Irish school leavers. We have around 33,000 students, and it is one of the largest urban campuses in Europe. So there's a lot of development going on at UCD. We've just opened some new housing. We'll talk about housing a little bit later on, just very briefly, but we've opened more on-campus housing, and we're now working on a new gateway project, a sort of future campus project as well. But the campus itself, it's got lots of sort of trails around it in terms of woodland walks and things like that. We've spent a lot of money in recent years in terms of upgrading and updating the campus. And a little later on as well, you'll just see some of the facilities as a study abroad student that you can experience when you're at UCD as well. Just moving over to the academic side of things, we're made up of 6 colleges and 38 schools. So you can see the colleges there, and there's study abroad programs in all of these academic areas. So social sciences and law, engineering and architecture, arts and humanities, science, which we're going to focus on in a little more detail, and health and agricultural science, along with business as well. So just in terms of the science study abroad program, you can see that building there. That's the O'Brien Centre for Science. That's a relatively new building, and most of the undergraduate teaching takes place in this building. So great state-of-the-art facilities, really good labs for students. And the emphasis really has been on smaller group teaching as well. So there's none of this kind of warehouse labs or anything like that. I know most of you are probably from fairly small institutions, relatively anyway. But as I said, the facilities there are great. They're really enjoyed by the staff and by the students as well. So we have a very diverse science curriculum, 27 subjects across all the major scientific disciplines. We have 2 schools of biology. So we have a School of Biology and Environmental Science, and a School of Biomolecular and Biomedical Science. So for students who are on sort of like a pre-med pathway, we've got plenty of offerings, biomedical offerings available that transfer back very well to US institutions. And also different to my experience with a lot of institutions in the US is that the School of Computer Science is housed in the College of Science as well. Computer science is a really big discipline at UCD. You'll find a lot of the major tech companies, a lot of the US tech companies have the European headquarters in Dublin. So, the likes of Google and Facebook's and so on are based here in Dublin. But it's not just all about taught modules. We also have a research module as well. So, as one of your modules, and when I say module, I mean like class or course, we call them modules here at UCD. As part of the up to 6 that you can do in a semester, you could also look to do a research module as well. So this is available to science study abroad students, and it's available in any of the science disciplines. So what we look to do is kind of map you to an active research lab, to a group, in your area of interest. And we'll touch upon that in a little more detail in a moment. So you can see the range of science subjects here. We won't dwell on this too much because this is sort of repeated in later slides. But this one here sort of gives a little bit more detail in terms of the biological sciences that we offer. So, it's everything from the environmental science side of things, zoology as well, to microbiology, neuroscience, pharmacology, for example. We also have physiology on the program as well, which is becoming an increasingly popular major. And we're seeing, obviously, one thing the pandemic seems to have done is created a lot more interest in some of the biomedical majors that we deliver, in particular microbiology, which probably comes as no surprise given the sort of race to find vaccines during the pandemic. Chemistry, we have a very large school of chemistry, and within the science program we have different chemistry majors that you can see here: environmental and sustainable, biophysical, medicinal chemistry, and so on. And just in relation to the physical side of things, we have a School of Earth Sciences. Within the School of Physics, we have an astronomy and space science program, as you'd expect, all the different flavors of maths and statistics. And as I mentioned as well, computer science. So getting back to the research module, as I said, we've had students that have taken this particular module in all of the science disciplines. And it can be a really good sort of add-on to your experience here in Ireland. Obviously, you're taking most of the modules you're taking are taught modules, and we've seen increasingly for a number of students that their institutions are allowing this module to transfer back as credit as well. But obviously, that would be a matter for your home institution. But as I said, a great opportunity for students potentially, and you can just see some of the things that you actually learn in the course of this particular module. The basic laboratory skill, an advanced laboratory skill, and you do a scientific abstract. And then at the end of the semester, we have like a symposium where students present their work in sort of poster format, and that goes really well. So that's something to keep in mind as well if you're interested in potentially pursuing research in the future. Just some of the nitty-gritty kind of things now, just application deadlines, sort of beginning of May for the fall, 25th of October for the spring. The entry requirements, we generally look for a GPA of 3.0. If you're kind of on the cusp of that, then do not hesitate to get in contact with me or one of my colleagues. If you're coming from one of our partner institutions, which are all essentially from on this call, or you'll be listening from one of our partner institutions, we are very accommodating towards students from those institutions. And most of what is on here, I'm going to cover in a little more detail in the next couple of slides. So we'll just move on. So as I said, we call courses or classes, modules here at UCD. The minimum course load that you need to take is 20 credits. Now, most of the undergraduate modules are 5 credits, and the maximum would be 6 modules of 30 credits. And we do find that a lot of study abroad students tend to take 5 modules. So they take 25 ECTS. All the UCD course information is online, but feel free to contact me directly if you need any more information, particularly for STEM students. It is obviously very important that the sequencing is right, that you're going to be able to take the modules and the courses, when you're looking at studying abroad. And sometimes, of course, as well, you need a little bit more information than you'll find on the website. So, offline, we do have kind of further information, syllabi, for example, which I'm sure your institutions would like to see if they haven't seen them already. I know with a lot of partners, a lot of the previous students have sort of provided the syllabi. So I know in some instances, courses have been pre-approved, but your study abroad office at your home institution would be able to give you more information in relation to that. The way that it works essentially is you take the majority of the modules from the program that you are applying to. So if you're coming on the science program, you would take the majority of modules in science. However, there's also an opportunity for you to take a couple of modules from outside the program area as well. So here's just a sample of some of the hundreds and hundreds, and there literally are hundreds of electives that you can take. The reason why I've included these ones in the slide is just because visiting students, study abroad students, quite often like to take something with an Irish sort of twist or Irish flavour to it. So there's just a couple of examples there. But, the modules, if you're a science student and you want to take modules in business, or you want to take modules in agriculture or arts and humanities, then that's all possible. And we kind of manage the module, the course registration process for you in advance of you arriving in Ireland. So you kind of have a good idea, what your schedule is before you even land. Most study abroad students do tend to stay on campus, and we have a large allocation of housing set aside for study abroad students. As I said, we've also opened up sort of new housing developments just this semester. So if you adhere to kind of the application timelines in terms of applying for on-campus housing, which we would communicate with you, UCD Global would communicate with you, once you're an accepted student, then you have a really good chance of securing on-campus accommodation. As I said, there is a large allocation for study abroad students, and most study abroad students do choose to stay on campus. That said, UCD Global do also offer some support and information in terms of off-campus housing for students that may prefer to stay off campus. But I think if you're only going to be, at UCD for a semester, it kind of makes sense to consider the on-campus housing. It's kind of pretty easy to get to and from classes. You don't have the added transport costs of having to get to campus. And you can roll out of bed into a class, in a short space of time. And as I said earlier, there's really good transport links from the campus to the city centre. You know, it's only a few kilometres away, so you can easily get on a bus and be in the city centre in a fairly short space of time. One thing I always recommend students to do is join clubs and societies. We've got a huge number of clubs and societies, as you can see there. You know, there's over 80. The International Student Society is a really popular one. And there's a lot of sporting activity on campus as well. And there's great sporting facilities. So if you're into your sport and your exercise, then UCD is a good destination, study abroad destination for you. And within the UCD Student Centre, there is a fully equipped gym that runs plenty of classes, and that's included in your tuition as well. So you can access the gym and access the classes. There is also a 50-metre Olympic-sized swimming pool. There is a small charge for students to use that pool, but it is a fairly nominal charge, and it's a fantastic pool, as the picture there would suggest. There's really good on-campus facilities, not just the gym, but there's also a cinema in the student centre as well. And, you know, there's plenty of restaurants, and there's, you know, also a pub on campus as well. So, you know, a great campus in terms of student experience. And as I said, if you're into your sports, then really good facilities in relation to, you know, all manner of different sports on campus. Also, if you're coming to UCD as a study abroad student, we have a complementary cultural and social program that you can avail of if you wish. And there's just an idea there, a flavour of some of the things that you know, they do. It does change from semester to semester, but it's always the case that there's a welcome reception and a farewell reception. In the fall semester, they always do like a Thanksgiving dinner, and there's several day trips that they do every semester. So you can see just above the text there in the centre of the screen, the sort of top centre, that's the Giant's Causeway in County Antrim in Northern Ireland. It's a beautiful part of the world, and where you can see the group of students there, that's in Glendalough in the Wicklow Mountains. And that's, you know, just less than an hour away from the UCD campus, and sort of one of the must-see destinations for overseas visitors to islands is the Cliffs of Moher, which you can see in the lower left-hand corner there. I sort of just took this screenshot of just some of the activities they do. Some of them are Dublin based. So, you know, there's a Hope Adventure, for example, and they also do like walking tours around Dublin, the day trips around Ireland, which I mentioned before, and also some things like, you know, the Super Bowl at the cinema and things like that. So, as I said, they refresh it on a semester by semester basis. But it's there, and it's something that, you know, study abroad students can avail of for no extra charge. It's kind of included should you wish to. And I think it's sort of really nice in the first few weeks in particular, when you're in a new country, and, you know, some of you may not necessarily know anyone else or very few others. You know, it's a good way to meet, you know, fellow students as well, study abroad students who are sort of on the same sort of experience as you in the first few weeks of the semester. Just giving you an indication of the term dates here. I do appreciate that you're not necessarily looking to come in the current academic year, but this is very consistent and just gives you an idea of how things run at UCD. So the fall semester typically does, the orientation week does start in the early part of September, and the teaching term generally in sort of mid-September, and then runs right through to you know, a week or so before Christmas, the examination period. During orientation week, we have lots of sort of activities and events for visiting students, and we also have academic advisories as well. So if you're looking to come to UCD, it is a good idea to plan to arrive for the orientation week, so that you can participate in those events, you know, familiarise yourself with the campus and with Dublin before the teaching term commences. And as you can see with the spring semester there, you know, we tend to start the orientation week in mid-January, and then exams finish in mid-May. And that would be very typical every year, that kind of broad outline of dates. So that kind of brings me to the end. As I said, I didn't want to bore you to death in terms of a huge presentation, but I wanted to give you, a reasonable overview of study abroad, Ireland, UCD, for example. And I'm wondering, obviously, if anyone has any questions, if you want to put them in the chat, or if you want to come off mute and ask any questions, then feel free to do so.
I know you mentioned briefly about how we can take classes in different colleges, so combining science with humanities. Can you just speak a little more about that process?
Yeah, so actually, Emma, what major are you doing? So where would you be looking to take the majority of your classes? And then I can sort of give you an idea of how it would look.
Yeah, probably neuroscience.
Yeah, cool. So you would then look to apply, Emma, to the UCD Science Study Abroad program. And you could do up to 6 modules. It would be up to your home institution and your advisors there as to whether you did 4, 5, or 6 modules at UCD. But you would come into the Science Study Abroad program. Myself or my colleagues in the science office would manage all of your registration for you. So at the time of making an application, you would indicate what science modules you want to do and what, say, arts and humanities modules you wanted to do. And we would look to register you to those modules. Now, there is flexibility to change. Like a lot of institutions, we have an ad drop period as well. So, it runs at least a couple of weeks into term. So you're not sort of committed to the modules that you list on your application. But that's an indication. That's how we do the first run of registration. And then if you want to make any changes, you can make changes. But we would manage that whole process for you, Emma. So you would just indicate the modules, and if you want to make any changes, then you would let myself or one of my colleagues know, and we'd make those changes for you. So it would be quite common, and I think Jennifer's just put in a comment there, that in terms of the full course load, it would be 30 ECTS. So a typical breakdown there with a student coming into the Science Study Abroad program is they would typically take 4 science modules and 2 non-science modules, say arts and humanities or business or agriculture, for example. Does that answer your question, Emma?
Yes, that's great. Thank you so much.
Cheers. Thank you. Do you have any other questions there, Emma or Adeline? If you're there, do you have any questions at all in relation to some of the information that I've covered? I think one thing I do want to emphasize as well to the 2 of you, and Jennifer would know this, and also to anyone listening to the recording, is we have very strong support structures in place at UCD. So as part of the slide there, my contact details are in there, and I'm happy to hear from any student, whether they're science or not, and I can direct you accordingly. But every program area has a point of contact. So I would be the point of contact for study abroad students in science. And if you have any questions at all, if you're a prospective student, you're just trying to see whether it's a right fit for you, then do reach out to us at UCD. And obviously your study abroad officers, your international officers in your home institution as well, are a really good point of contact in terms of navigating through the system, because we do appreciate it is different. That's part of one of the things that attracts you to study abroad, is that it is different. But that means sometimes that it can be a little more challenging to navigate, and you just need to be assured that there are people such as myself at UCD that are more than happy to help with any queries that you may have. Great.
Thanks so much, Jamie. And we'll be making that recording available, posted on our website, and share it with our colleagues at our peer institutions that have been working with us on the virtual fair series.
That's great. That's absolutely fabulous. I appreciate your time. And as I said, my main objective was not to drone on for too long, but hopefully it's given everyone a good overview of what we offer at UCD. And as I said, if there's any questions, then please reach out to me or any of my colleagues.
Awesome. Bye. Have a good day. Or
Thanks,
good evening to you.
Jennifer. Cheers. Bye now.
Thank you.